mention to those who taken refuge, because I don't think I've ever mentioned it before, but it's always a good idea if you've taken refuge to say refuge to yourself before a class if you're at that level. You know, we generally don't do it in Discovering Buddhism or even on the Sunday class because, not everybody's interested in that. So, but those of us who have taken refuge, it's always appropriate to do that before listening to the teachings. So.
I'm sorry, Tetra, what are you talking about?
Well, that's why I'm only telling them, because eventually if you decide to become a Buddhist, which means you've taken refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, mainly being the Dharma, the teachings, then there are some practices that are, kind of go along with that to remind you that you've taken refuge. So, refuge, I think, is either the next module or the one after that. Might be the next one. So, I think I'll just sit. It's very comfortable. I've been reading about karma all day. Sorry you missed it. That's probably not fair. So, anyway, okay.
We'll just read your mind.
Man, if you can do that. Okay. Okay. I have no idea. Okay. Good evening, Anthony. This is just for you. So just take a moment to kind of settle your mind here. And sometimes the easiest way to do that is to bring your attention to your body sitting here. We can use our body to ground us in what we're doing in this moment. And then you can anchor your attention on the sensation of the breath going in and out of the body, either the tip of your nose or the rise and fall of your belly. And by anchoring your mind in this spot, kind of allow all the inputs like sound, temperature of the room, taste, all these things kind of fall to the background. Just zero your intention onto that sensation of the breath. And try to remember the reason you came this evening. What your interest is in karma. Why are you here? And using that reason, try to set a strong intention to use the time well. behind that intention with the wish that it be of benefit, not just for yourself, but that it ripples out to benefit others. Just knowing that taking care of our mind is really a very essential task for benefiting others, for taking care of our loved ones, because our actions follow our mind. And just try to review what the 4 characteristics of karma are. We say that karma is definite or certain. Try to remember what that means. Saying that karma is certain means that positive actions lead to positive results, and negative actions lead to negative results. They always match. And the second characteristic, karma increases. What does this mean? So karma increases means that from a very small action, there can be many results. Just like a small acorn can lead to a giant oak tree. The third characteristic, we only experience the results that we created the cause for. So what does this mean? It means that everything that we experience is the result of something that we've done with our body, speech, or mind in the past. And the final characteristic, karma does not go to waste. This means that we're certain to experience the results of our past actions if nothing intervenes to render the seed the seed or imprint from being able to produce a result. So the point of looking at karma is that it helps us be able to create causes for a happier future. to check in with your body. To reaffirm your motivation, your intention for this evening. And when you're ready, just gently open your eyes. Yes, wake up. So, any burning questions from last week? Or from the readings? Or did you even think about it? Because I can relate to that. I can really be patient. Just wait. No questions at all. Nothing that just kept coming up in the mind this week. Well, I will hopefully challenge you better this week.
The only thing that came up for me, but it's not directly related to karma, but it did come up. I think we started last week. See, sometimes I get confused between Sunday and Thursday.
I know, I just-
You know how that goes, right? But in the four immeasurables, right? This goes to the definition of happiness, because I remember once somebody asked you what the definition of happiness is, and you basically said absence of suffering, and was your reply. But then if I go to the four immeasurables, right? May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness, and then be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So they seem to be.
Yeah, but they're not
But
really.
Well, yeah, okay, of course. Yeah.
No, I mean,
No, no,
you know.
yeah, right.
It's just, I guess you could probably look at it, depending on whether you're talking about conventionally or ultimately. You know, conventionally, in our day-to-day life, you know, happiness really comes from, you know, sort of like what we talked about when we were discussing the Book of Joy last year, or whenever it was, the year before. So, you know, this idea that feeling like you were useful, have a purpose, that you do, you know, that your days are filled with meaningful activities, you know, is more likely to lead to a sense of contentment as opposed to this kind of chronic dissatisfaction we suffer from. But and the path to the two is sort of the same. Happiness and suffering. We have to realize how things actually exist in order to remove the foundation for our negative actions. Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once, and I know better. But so, and then we have to, you know, understand that we need to flip our usual habit of putting ourselves first and others second. So we put ourselves, and not just ourselves, but usually what we consider to be mine, you know, first. My family, my job, my loved ones, you know, that kind of thing. And what the Buddha said is we need to learn how to see each other as equal and then exchange our habit of cherishing ourselves for cherishing others. So that's the practice of equalizing and exchanging yourself for others. That will come up in the Bodhicitta course. So, so in a sense, having the absence of suffering and the absence of the causes of suffering is the cause of happiness. You know, it's the result is happiness. It's like a cessation of all our negative habits, our cessation of holding the self to exist in a way that it doesn't. we discover a blissful mind. So we don't actually have to do anything to the mind for that bliss to arise. What we have to do is stop doing all the things we're currently doing that are getting in the way. So, but it's not magic. It takes a lot of effort and practice and changing habits. So I can't remember if we went over this last week. No, okay.
But can I just ask you a quick question on
Yeah, all of those who had no questions.
pervasive formation? That is what really just
All pervasive.
warping my brain a little
The types of
bit.
suffering.
Pervasive formation? Pervasive formation?
Yeah, I'm
That's-
not sure what you're talking about. Are you talking about the third type of suffering?
Well, it seems to result in suffering, but
I don't know what your phrase is.
pervasive
I wanna make sure I
formation.
know what your phrase, I haven't,
Yeah.
I say either,
It's referring to the aggregates.
yes,
and
they are
our-
of the nature of all pervasive suffering.
Right,
Formation, that's where I'm confused.
okay, that's what it's referred to in readings. I don't know what it means, really.
Okay.
I mean, I'm really struggling with
Right.
trying to sort of experientially,
Yeah, and I'll
Understand.
hopefully, I'll try to get there. And if I don't get there tonight, remind me 3 minutes before the end.
okay.
So I'll try to work with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Last time I heard you say something like emptiness is form and it's not really form. Is that because it's really empty? And
Is that in this class? Oh my goodness,
I
I
think
must have
so.
jumped way ahead.
Is that
So.
jumped?
So, that's from the Heart Sutra.
Yes.
Someone may have asked a question about it. So emptiness is form, I know I talked about it Tuesday night.
So because form is really empty once it becomes
No,
recognized?
it's a shorthand way of saying that the conventional truth of something, the conventional truth and the ultimate truth of anything are two sides to the same coin. So form is empty,
Right.
you know, and a form's emptiness, you know, the only reason form can exist is because it's empty of inherent existence. So this is just, we're not going there, okay? I have too much to talk about first. We will get there. But, you know, of course, 13, I don't know. So.
We were just there.
I know, I was just discussing it Tuesday night. Okay. So last week we talked about, so what is karma? Just to make sure y'all.
Action.
Well, what is it, okay, the word karma means action in Sanskrit, but what is it getting at in this context?
The law of cause and effect.
The law of cause and effect. So taking our actions of body, speech, and mind and understanding that just like planting a seed, if all the right conditions are there, can produce a sprout, you know, that our actions of body, speech, and mind place a seed on our mind stream that's going to produce a result in the future. And there are 4 characteristics of that, in that our actions, you know, they're motivated by positive qualities of mind, positive states of mind, then that's going to produce positive results. If our actions are motivated by hatred or anger or greed, it's going to result in a negative result. This karma is definite thing. If it increases, so from one action you get 4 results, but you're labeled 3 results because they break down 2 into 2 parts, and I just call it 4. Because I'm like that, so, because I see 4. All right. And not only does it can, you know, a small action repeated over time can make, you know, a result later much heavier, much stronger. So we're gonna go over that tonight. And then karma does not, we don't, everything that we experience is due to something, to our past actions of body, speech, and mind. And not just this life, but since beginningless time. So, to understand the Buddha's teachings on the law of cause and effect, you need to understand that it's based on this foundation that consciousness has always existed. Each of our mind streams has always existed. And we are currently in this uncontrolled cycle of birth, aging, sickness, death, and then rebirth. Because we misunderstand how we exist, and thereby we grasp at this precious little self that we have, and we elevate it to a status as more important than everything else, and that keeps us bound to this kind of existence. And if we learn to change that assumption about how we exist, we can actually get out of a suffering existence entirely. And we will discover that the mind's natural state is blissful, as opposed to dissatisfied, or fearful, or anxious, or worried, or greedy.
Something I was trying to understand in terms of ownership of our own karmic consequences. If I do something like, evil with the intention of harming somebody's son, for instance, next life somebody harms my daughter as a consequence of that. That's my karma. But it would also have to be my daughter's karma
Yep.
to be harmed.
Yep, both would have to be true.
Okay.
And that would be true when you killed the son.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the kind of thing we'll be talking about, yes.
And how should we understand a positive intention that leads to a negative action?
It can't. And you mean, I'm not sure I'm following. So you say you want to help someone.
All right, for example, you need to defend some people in a village,
Okay,
but in order
To what?
defend them from dying.
and why is that positive?
Why is that positive? Well, why, we should let them die?
Doesn't matter, they'll be reborn. This is why you have to really look at the big picture. It's not that it's wrong to protect your own life or other people's lives, but you really have to understand, as soon as you decide that protection includes killing someone else, then you're basically saying, I value this person's life more than that person's life, and I'm willing to take the fall for it because killing is going to result in suffering. So most parents, are quite willing to, with, the idea that they throw themselves in front of a bus to protect their child, And of course, if you throw yourself in front of a bus to protect your child, you're not incurring any killing karma. You're just protecting the child. However, if you pick up a gun and shoot the bus driver, that's a different karmic action. But it doesn't matter in the sense that because we grasp to ourselves and everything that we see that belongs to ourselves as the most important to protect, whatever, this is what we'll do. I need to talk about what I've got up here, because we can do this forever. Okay? And so let's look at the facts as the Buddha presented them, just to make our conversation even all that much more meaty, So, because this is what it's related to. So our actions have results. So last week I talked about what it takes to have a complete action, right? So you need the thought, which has components of recognition and motivation and what delusion you're under. You have the object, then you have the performance of the action, and then the culmination of the action. So if all four of those things are complete, you know, you want to do something, you do it, you have the correct object, you know, and then either, like if it's killing, you know, the being dies. If it's stealing, you feel like it's yours now. Or if it's lying, they've heard you, understood you, they don't have to believe you. You know, this is what completes the action. Those actions are forceful enough to cause a ripened or fruitional result, which means a type of rebirth. You know, so when you're using a verb, it's called throwing or projecting karma. You know, so it throws you into a life, but it only ripens at the time of death. You know, when you need, you know, a body to go towards. So incomplete, and then there are these other parts to that action. There are results similar to the cause. Thank you.
There it is.
It's the connection. There are results similar to the experience of the cause, and then environmental results. Well, just be that way. Okay. So the ripened or fruitional results, you know, so every time we perform an action, and that's a body, speech, or mind. So a thought, you know, or a word, you know, we say something, or we do something. That creates karma. And we use the analogy of it's like it's planting a seed on our mind stream, a potential. And that potential is the potential to produce a result. Okay? And then when the conditions are there, it will ripen into that result. Complete actions, its main result is the rebirth. So in the last life, all of us had a positive thought at the time of death. And that causes to have a human rebirth with, you know, a mixture of conditions. But if we're here, according to the teachings, we have a pretty good rebirth with good conditions, because, you know, we're not in a war-torn place. We're, you know, we have leisure time to actually take a class, those kind of things. So, my teacher in Australia was asked, if you're a fisherman and you like to fish, does the act of killing a fish transform to become a pleasurable feeling? Because you catch a fish and you feel happy about it because you like to fish. So, no. The catching the fish is not the cause for the pleasurable feeling. Why not? Why not?
Because it's killing, it's a negative action.
Right, so it can't possibly be the result of the killing of a fish. So what is the cause of the pleasurable feeling? But what?
Knowing that your hunger will be satiated.
No?
Ego.
No?
Well, reading ahead, some past virtuous action.
Some past virtuous action. Yeah, the answer's right in front of you. If you can see it, it's there for you. Okay, this is what we have to understand. Karma's not instant. So just because we're doing an action like cheating on our spouse and we are enjoying it, those are not cause and effect happening. because karma's not instant. Okay? I mean, you don't have to agree, but do you understand what I'm saying? Let's start with that, okay? The only thing that can cause pleasure is a previous positive action, that this is a condition for it to ripen it, that you've got other suitable conditions, and that's why it ripens.
How quick is it? Like, how
It can be
quick-
eons.
Oh, okay. Right, past lives.
Yep.
So then, is it suggested that the pleasure is not actually coming from the killing?
Nope, it doesn't
of-
come from the killing
killing
at all. It's not
It's a
possible.
completely, completely separate.
Not possible. Which is one reason why you have to study. Or you can't figure this out. You know, if you've got it in your mind that karma can be like that, and you enjoy killing, then there's no reason for you to think it's a negative action. So you have to study. You have to learn what the Buddha saw. Because it's not gonna, you know, unfortunately, it's, you know, our experiences are separated from their cause in time.
So what sort of positive action could the pleasurable feeling be?
Anything.
Really?
This is the kind of thing that's very hidden. I mean, you'd have to be a Buddha to know all the different things of someone's life and past lives and all their past lives to know what it is.
A cause and effect can be within the same lifetime?
Yes, but
Okay,
it's
cool.
there, yeah. But it
Okay.
has to be pretty powerful to be in the same lifetime.
So usually most of it's from previous?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if you want to know where you know, what you did in past lives, you just look at what you're experiencing in this one. If you want to know what your future lives hold, look at your mind. You know? Yeah.
I've spent years trying to disengage from the lower vibratory plane, where I was taught, you know, aggression is part of the natural state of man, and to own it. My thing is, whenever I go and I step into the boxing ring,
Right.
let's just say, that headspace that I'm inhabiting for the hour, does that aggression automatically cancel out the 23 hours that I'm trying to stay on a higher vibratory level?
Well, the trouble is, practicing aggression makes it more likely to happen again. So you have to really be careful with your mind. You know? Because if you use aggression as the state of mind in order to box, you know, if you use some sort of energy that comes from, you know, I want to beat this person or, you know, whatever, that's practicing, you know, an angry mind or an aggressive mind, or I want to hurt this person, or I want to knock this person out. All of those things are negative actions. And thinking that way is practicing it. So you're making a stronger and stronger and stronger habit. I mean, the Buddha would say, you've ended up in this profession because of practicing it in past lives. But you also, it's a mixture, we're all mixtures, you know, that the other 23 hours of the day, you know, it's not like you're not a safe person to hang out with, you know? So it's, you know, this is the thing. So we have to be really mindful about why we're doing something, you know, so that, like, you know, it's like, what do we call it? What is it? Worldwide wrestling, where my understanding, and please do not correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to know, is that it's kind of set up. It's kind of like a performance. Well, that makes it very easy not to have a negative mind while you're doing it. You're just play acting, and you're just using your strength of your body in order to do that. It is considered entertainment. Boxing is also considered entertainment by all the people who aren't boxing. So, you know, the people who are watching. So you can also see it as a form of entertainment. You just have to really look, what is it doing to my mind? You know?
And that plants the seeds for fruition. Yeah, I thought so, you know, it's just, wow.
Yeah, so it's worth looking at,
Yeah.
you know, because it's, you know, people who do, medical research on animals, you know, have to really look at these kinds of decisions. And we all harm things in our lives, you know, so, you know, it's not like any of us can escape that because of the nature of our world. So it's about checking the mind, you know, really looking, am I practicing a habit that I really don't want to practice because it leads to actions I don't want to do. Yes.
So the other side of that is you, during this lifetime, perform a series, or because it's your intention to do so, virtuous acts.
Right.
Couldn't those positive things ripen into some positive results
They
in
will.
your existing lifetime?
Some, if they're really powerful. One of the ways, there's no question our habits affect us even in this lifetime are things like our state of mind. If you walk around impatient and angry all the time, that is a condition to suffer. You know, to have people not like you, to, you know, people not to invite you to parties, you know, whatever. I mean, those are all things that can happen. But what the Buddha was describing, that those kinds of, you know, so we're placing the seeds for that. But part of the reason that they're ripening for us in this life is because we've been practicing this habit for a while, you know. But if we develop a new habit in this life that's not skillful, it's certainly, you know, you're going to have some results that are like that. Just because we're interdependent. We create conditions. We, you know, scare people and make them want to run away, you know. It's, you know, so it's certainly not that they have no impact, you know. It's just said that our actual experience of pleasure and suffering is the ripening of a previous action. But if you have the habit, and just like you were saying, if you have the habit of positive, so if you're always looking for the good in people, you're always seeing the positive side of every activity or every day, then that leads to a much better condition for satisfaction and contentment. Yep.
I apologize, you don't have to go through this at length again, because you've already done it, but I don't get it. Why? Buddha, right, says killing bad, right?
He doesn't say that. He said that this is what he saw. He saw people who killed and saw the result of their killing.
Okay.
Because he could see their whole lives from beginningless time, so to speak.
All right. So why, in killing a being of any kind is not good, so why isn't killing a fish the seed of future bad times?
It is.
Oh.
It's absolutely that. You're creating the cause, first of all, to be a fish and be hunted, or be, I don't know what you call fishing, to be fished. So, yeah. Melissa?
The story about the person, I don't remember his name, but he killed and then he took up the Buddhist way, and right away he had good karma, and the timing of that was that
He didn't have good karma in,
or, no.
okay.
I
He
mean, I'm talking-
purified his
like,
negative
do some people
karma.
reach good karma before others, depending on the conditions?
No. So let's go through all this.
Okay.
Okay? Because that's is the problem. We think we know a little bit about it, we read stories, and then we form the, you know, incorrect conclusions from the story, because we don't know the whole picture. So, but I do think these kinds of questions are interesting, aren't they? But this really illustrates that, I'm sorry, Anthony, I'm not reading the slides to you. I'm talking to the recording. Okay, okay. So the main cause for happiness or suffering, or even the cause of a thing being existing, any result at all is called a substantial cause. So if you have a wooden table, the substantial cause of a wooden table is wood. Okay, you can't have a wooden table without wood, okay? You also have, in addition to substantial causes, coactive conditions or causes, or contributing causes. I usually call them like cooperative conditions. You know, so like when you plant a seed, the seed is the substantial cause for the plant that grows from that seed. But you need water and sunlight and nutrients in the soil and good luck, all sorts of things for it to, you know, bear fruit. So those are the cooperative conditions or coactive causes. Okay? So the substantial cause for the experience of pleasure was not the killing of the fish, because that can only be a virtuous state of mind in the past. Okay, then another kind of result we have is results similar to the cause. You continue to behave in the way you become accustomed to behave, the habit. For example, as a result of killing in the past, you will continue to be violent and kill in subsequent lives. Another example would be someone who has plenty of food to eat, a nice house, and fine clothes to wear, but still likes to steal other people's property. Like Winona Ryder being a shoplifter, you know, when she was successful. Because it's not because, you know, oh, I don't have enough, blah, blah, blah. No, it's because she has the habit of thinking there's something about taking something that belongs to others that is pleasing or compulsive, you know, or you have a compulsion to do it. This comes from habits in the past lives. So even though you have really good conditions in this life, because you've also done all sorts of things in past lives to end up with the results of having a successful career, you know, earn lots of money, blah, 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 doesn't mean you've broken the habit of stealing. You know, so we're mixtures. This is when you need that red slide, you know. Then the result's similar to the experience of the cause. This means that you experience a result that is similar to the past actions that brought about that result. So the corresponding result of killing is to have a short life, because the main suffering you inflict when you kill someone is to shorten their life. The corresponding result of stealing is to live in poverty. And I didn't continue that quote. We'll go through, you know, we'll have some more examples of this. But so basically, if you steal, then you have, you know, you're setting up the cause to have things stolen from you. You know, if you kill, you're setting up the cause to be killed, or to have many illnesses and have a short life. You know, so this is how it goes. Of course, if it's a killing, if it's a time of death, you have a really angry, violent kind of thought, okay? That's the state of your mind at the time of death. So that causes one of your killing karmas to ripen. You know, where do you think you go? Do you think you have a happy, precious human rebirth?
Hell realm.
You go to a hell realm. So, and the more, you know, negative and heavy that seed that ripens is, the uglier and horrible the hell realm is. Okay?
None of them are nice.
Huh?
None of them are nice.
No, none of them are nice, yes.
Is the hell realm here, or is it?
It's
could be
really,
another-
it can be anywhere, because it's not a place we can see.
Right.
So, you know, but you know, for a lot of us who just can't go there, don't believe it, not gonna buy it, it doesn't take much of a stretch. We create hells on earth with pretty much no problem and with regularity. You know, it's like there doesn't seem to be a century that there isn't some place that is a hellish, horrible place to live. And not only that, even if you're not in something that's obvious to the whole world that it's a hell to live there, you could just be, you know, you could just be a young female in a place where they sell you for sex you know, and you're just kidnapped and you're taken someplace and you never see the light of day again, you know. So it's, you know, there are all sorts of ways in which we create horrific ways to live. And this is just here in human beings who have the capacity to figure out this isn't a good move. Yep.
What about in case of euthanasia, if you're a doctor responsible for
Okay,
term-
can we just wait on that?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's killing, you know. So you have to really be careful about your mind.
Even the person has to terminate
Yep.
because, wow.
They get it more than you do. Theirs is heavier, because they're
Their-
asking you to do it.
Their family too.
Yeah, and their family, everybody. Yep,
Wow.
yep. But we have to look at the motivation of compassion.
So if on one hand, you have a person who is reborn, you know, in a precious human body, however, they're born into a terrible.
That's not a precious
circumstance.
human body, so it's you know, this is what's important to remember. It's not really a precious human body, it's a precious human rebirth.
Okay, somebody with a precious human rebirth, but they're born in a war zone. That's
They're not,
terrible.
then they don't have one.
Okay.
That's not a precious human rebirth.
Not all human rebirths are precious.
Right. To be a precious human rebirth, this was last module. What do you need? What is, just throw out something.
Be born in the land.
Opportunities, quality, and leisure.
Yeah.
Let me take that.
Say
let me
that
take the
louder.
precious off.
Oh, sorry. Opportunities, qualities, and leisure.
Okay. So you need to have, you know, resources. You need to have safety. You know, this is what a precious human rebirth means. You have the freedom from living in a war zone.
Mhm.
You have the freedom from living in barbarian countries, which means the Dharma doesn't exist there. You know, you have the freedom from, you know, from not being allowed to practice your spiritual path. You know, these kinds of
So-
things.
So let me scratch the precious. A human rebirth into a terrible circumstance like war versus being born as a dog but in a loving family with lots of food. What would have been the difference in our karmic history?
Well, I mean, it's the thought at the time of death.
Has more to do with the form that they take,
Oh, it has everything to do with all of it.
with both the form as well as
And the
circumstance?
environmental results and yeah.
Thank you.
So, like, if you have a heavy karma of killing, okay, you go to a hell realm for a little while until that seed exhausts, okay? But then, you get finally some good karma, you know, because they just exhaust. You're not stuck anywhere forever except in samsara unless you work to get out. But you know, so eventually, when some good karma ripens and you're born a human, you have difficult circumstances. You either have poor health or you're born in a war zone, you know, because you're still have the other effects of that killing karma that's ripened. So this is why karma is bigger than the action. It increases, it expands. Okay, I haven't heard from her yet.
So you, so you were saying, like, when you die, when you're getting ready to die and you have anger, and the substantial, you know, amount of anger that you have, does that correspond with how
We'll get
much
there.
the strength
We're
of
gonna
the
get
karma?
there. If we don't, we'll get there,
Okay.
okay? So we're moving ahead now. Environmental results are the results, you know, like the environmental result of lying is that things do not turn out well for you, no matter what kind of work you do. You can think of lying as a form of cheating others, and as a result of your own previous cheating, you encounter repeated failure in your efforts to make a livelihood. So this is just the way in which we can understand how karma increases, it magnifies. Okay. So the fruitional results of virtuous actions are rebirth in the higher realms. That's like as a human being, a demigod, or a god. But basically the happy realms. Results similar to the cause would be, for instance, that you meet with success and that you have money and that you get money without having to try that hard for it. or maybe you live a long life and you don't have many illnesses and so forth. These are all the results of those virtuous actions. So you know those rare people that seem to have everything going for them? You know,
Mhm.
they don't, that's all the result of a really positive karma ripening for them. And a lot of completing karmas. So we don't have to be, you know, we don't have to feel like, wow, you know, they're better than I am. Because that's not the case. It just means at the moment of death, I had a really good seed ripen. You know, we've all created the cause for those kinds of rebirths. If we've been around since beginningless time, we've done it all except become liberated from samsara. We haven't developed our wisdom. So that's why I made the red slide. Did the red slide say?
It's not about judging ourselves or others.
So we really want to keep that in mind, because it can be really easy to start looking at all the little parts of your life and start going, oh, I must have been a hideous. I mean, I'm convinced I had to have been a chauvinistic dentist in a past life. You know, there's just no doubt the horrors I have experienced in the dental chair. You know, I actually had a root canal. I had a root canal and a tooth pulled without the roots being numb. You know, and I created the cause for that. So, you know, it's not a good look. Oh well, let's hope I've exhausted it. You know, so I've lost my place, but you know.
No, that's not.
Okay, so we're going to look at it from the different side for a while. Okay? We're going to look at what are the results if you've done positive actions. Okay? I mean, just for a change of pace. Okay. So if we abandon killing, we make that decision. I'm not going to kill. So I'm going to quit hunting, I'm going to quit fishing, you know, I'm going to quit stepping on cockroaches, I'm going to quit swatting mosquitoes. I'm really going to try to abandon killing, okay? That, you know, if it's a complete action, that's going to result in a happy realm rebirth. The similar result is long life without sicknesses, without disease. The habit, the result similar to the cause is rebirth with an intuitive sense of compassion and appreciation of life at a young age. You know how sometimes small children will not let you kill something. It's just not their habit. They just protect life from an early age. The environmental result is food, drink, medicine, and crops are plentiful, high in nutrition and potency, and most beings around you also have long lives, like that village in Russia that they used to make the yogurt commercials about. Because they all had long lives. Abandoning stealing is also, if it's a complete action, would be a happy realm rebirth. And material wealth would come easily. You would have honesty and respect of others' property at a young age. And crops would be plentiful and businesses would be successful. You getting the drift?
No.
Why?
Well, I've never heard it described this way, but it's starting to sound like Christianity, right? Because your hell is purgatory, right? And if you have faith, you achieve a certain status in your
Yeah, well,
next life.
faith doesn't really enter into
And
it.
this is luck that you have
It's
from
not
some
luck.
past life.
No, it's not luck, because it's your actions.
But the reality is that I can change my status.
You can change your
I
mind.
could be born in New Delhi and live on the street and end up the President of the United States. Well, Secretary of State.
Your point?
I was born in a hell realm, right? But I elevated myself.
That's right, because we're a mixture of things. We don't have these kind of perfect situations, because we don't, what didn't ripen was this heaviest of perfect karmas, okay? But so we've created the cause for many different results. And this is why it matters to look at what we're doing. You know? Because we want to.
Because we'll gain the benefit in some future life.
And also, like you said, if you have some wisdom, you know, that you create conditions that make it more likely. But this gets to whether or not, like, you could do everything right, you know, all the things that you need to do as far as, you know, you get the education you need to learn the skill that you need in order to do what it is you want to do, and all these things, and nothing ever works out. That would be an environmental result of, that is accompanying this life. But the more that we can pay attention to what we're thinking and our motivation for things, and develop habits to where we really are focused on respecting life, respecting relationships, respecting possessions, then we will not be adding new negative seeds to our bank. Okay? Then if we keep looking at very carefully at how things actually exist as opposed to the way we hold things to exist, then we're going to eventually realize how things actually exist, and we remove the foundation. All of our negative habits arise from our ignorance of how things exist. So yes, I agree with you that, I mean, it's like the 10, what are they called?
Commandments.
10 Commandments, okay. You know, you can see how far I made it in church. I quit the year for confirmation. And I said, yeah, not me. So, and what, you know, like what His Holiness says is that, of course, there are many different religious traditions, and of course, you know, true religions, meaning they're not just, you know, it's not a cult where someone's just doing it for power, you know, have the same good qualities, because an enlightened being will find whatever tool works for your mind in order to encourage you to develop good habits, you know. So this idea of not killing, you know, because nobody wants to be killed, you know. Everybody runs from, you know, a perceived enemy. So that, you know, and so causing that kind of suffering to someone is going to result in our own suffering in a similar fashion in the future, if we don't purify it. So it's this, so yes, it's no different in that thing from any religion. Yep. The main difference between Buddhism and other religions is Buddhism holds that we create the universe, our minds and our karma, our actions, and it reflects our habits of mind. So, and that the way things exist, so there's no creator God in Buddhism, and then there's also, there's not this, there's this idea of things not existing inherently, so that you know, things are just changeable, they're impermanent, they don't have they're not established by their nature, that there is no tendron here, you know, it's just a body and mind, but that I've attached great importance to, you know, and that's part of my problem, you know. So, yeah, it's not like the Buddha didn't disagree with most of the things that were taught or discussed when he was alive, except for that, this idea of no self instead of a permanent soul and a creator, you know. So, but he also didn't teach that there's somebody, some supernatural being that's judging us and deciding what happens. That it's just a natural result, just like the gravity, whatever the other things in the physical universe. What's different in the law of causality that involves karma is that consciousness is introduced into it. That the way we think, what our motivation and our intentions has an effect also, you know. But it doesn't deny the way we, you know, the conventional day-to-day activities or something. So it's a very big, I mean, it takes a lot of exposure to all the different pieces to see how it fits together. And still, of course, you know, you might not buy it. I mean, it's so, you know, it took me years for karma to kind of, for me to surrender to karma. Yes, Melissa.
So if somebody like Jim Jones thinks he's poisoning people to save them from.
He's wrong.
Okay, but his intention, will he still?
He's wrong.
Will he reap karmic,
Yeah, because he's
Okay.
wrong.
but his intention was to save them?
You really think so?
No, I don't.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
okay. So, yeah, we think a little ego was there, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's like when 9/11 happened, I happened to already be a Buddhist at the time, and so I went to the Kadampa Center. Geshe Gelek was doing the teaching, and we kept saying, but they think they're doing a virtuous action. And he kept going, you can't say virtue, it's not virtuous. And that's one of the differences in the way they think and talk, is that if it's not a matter of opinion what is virtuous. So we may think we're doing something virtuous and we can be wrong. You know, it takes a lot of wisdom and then clairvoyance to actually start to see cause and effect in action. You know, so that's the thing. Intention matters, but so does the action. Yep.
Maybe if he truly believes it's something good, can it be that in a past life he did something so bad that caused him to be delusional to create this?
Well, I mean, it's just his ego.
Yeah.
You know, he just really believes that he knows best. You know, and that's just pride, and it's afflictive. So but again, since we can't read the minds of others, all we can do is guess. It doesn't mean we don't need to, you know, guess sometimes, like, oh, we can't trust this person to be in the general population. They need to go to jail because they are not, no one's safe in their presence. You know, we have to make judgments like that. You know, so it's not about that, but the thinking that we know that they're evil is probably a stretch, because we actually don't know what they're thinking. And so the, you know, the popular story about that is, in one of the past life stories of the Buddha, it says that he was on when he was a high level being, which meant he had clairvoyance, he was able to know what was in the mind of a ship captain who was planning to kill the 200 people on the ship. I've forgotten what the reason was, but for something, some sort of gain. And so the Bodhisattva decided to kill the ship captain to save the ship captain from incurring 200 actions of killing. So it was out of compassion for the ship captain. And because of that compassion, that his negative result was to, you know, go to the hell realms for an instant. Because the killing is a negative action, but his motivation was so positive, it wouldn't have a long result. So that's, you know, how they talk about it. Now, you have to have clairvoyance to be able to do that. Not only do you have to have clairvoyance, you have to have wisdom. And not only that, you are not putting that ship captain's life above the others. You know, it wasn't about protecting the lives of the others. It was about protecting that being from going through 200 hell realms. Yeah.
So, you know, I'm just listening to it. So you're saying somebody brought the Bible. I think, anyway, there's no debate, you know, on any of this, but I think on an intellectual level, right, like you're talking about clairvoyance and the Buddha and energies and things like this, right, past lives. I mean, I think it's just a bigger picture. Like, we're not gonna, I don't think we can comprehend half of that. I mean, I went to a talk.
No, we can't comprehend.
Yeah, there was a guru from India that mentioned the Bible. The guy, but he was a tantra, and he said, in the Bible, in the beginning, it says, in the beginning the Word was God, and, you know, whatever it said exactly. But word is a sound, right? So he's saying that it's a sound vibration. talk about creators and all these things, we don't know, right? There's consciousness.
Well, what the
involved.
Buddha said is we can know eventually.
Right.
So it's not, it
Right.
doesn't stay a mystery. It's just that we don't have the ability to know now.
So that's when you get out of some stuff, right? 'Cause on
Well, but
this
even
level-
before then,
Okay.
you'll, you know, fairly early on, which doesn't mean now. It's fairly early on for someone who's a bodhisattva, who's already made great strides. But, the path of preparation, they can see that they will become enlightened, they know that. And it's, you know, so it's, their understanding is quite different, so, but, anyway. So I'm not trying to sell you the Buddha's view, I am just trying to explain it, you know, so it's up to you to take what you will from it, what's useful. So to me, looking at the possible results of our actions kind of helps me see if it makes any sense at all. So it's sort of like just a starting point. So, which is how, you know, I came to the conclusion that I was a chauvinistic dentist, so. I mean, I can just have this picture of me, you know, like pulling people's teeth with the slamming of the door and the string or something and not giving them any kind of, you know, numbing agent, you know, because that is my experience. So, all right, so if you abandon sexual misconduct, then you have harmonious relationships. Lying. If you abandon lying, then people trust you. And that you told the truth from a very early age. And that your work with others is successful, there's cooperation, because people trust you. They trust what you say. And they don't lie to you. Divisive speech. So if you have a habit of always kind of throwing in a comment or something that draws suspicion between people who are getting along, you know, that's kind of like, oh, maybe you shouldn't trust him, her, you know, whatever, or you shouldn't, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're parting people who are harmonious. And that, so if you give that up, you won't have that problem. You know, same thing. So you never lack friends because you're trustworthy. Again, it's, you know, harsh speech. And people will, if you abandon that, notice I keep forgetting to say, abandoning harsh speech, that people will speak well of you and you will have a good reputation. You'll have kind, gentle speech at a young age. So I feel like a billboard sometimes of ugly past lives. Kind, gentle speech at a young age. No, I can't check that box. Okay. Purposeful speech from a young age. Abandoning so if you abandon harsh speech, your speech becomes powerful, because, I mean, to me it makes sense, because, you know, if someone who never seems to say anything unskillfully, you know, I find it easier to really listen to what they say. Covetous mind. So there are three non-virtues of mind: coveting, ill will, and wrong view. So if you abandon coveting, you will easily be able to accomplish whatever you wish for. Your habit of rejoicing at others' good fortune comes naturally to you at a young age, as opposed to jealousy. And you can hold on to good things that are happening to you. So your conditions stay positive. If you abandon ill will, You will be born with fearlessness and great confidence, compassion and loving kindness at a young age, and a peaceful and safe world. So none of us kind of can tick that. So, and abandoning wrong view. You know, the wrong view is this idea of holding an idea like karma to not exist, or holding that killing animals as a sacrifice for something positive to happen, you know, is a wrong view, because these things will lead you to not be careful about what you do or think or say, because you're not concerned about possible results. Killing obviously is negative, so you know that having that habit means you're actually, you know, so if you have the habit of dismissing things out of hand, you know, and hold tightly to that can't be true, or that's true, you know, whatever. So you also just, oh, you know, everything's random, it doesn't matter what happened, you know, it doesn't matter what I do, so I can do whatever I want, you know.
So nihilism is wrong view?
Hedonism and nihilism, yeah. But of course, I mean, we don't know, you know, that, you know, this is something that we don't abandon until we're really far along. So, but this can cause us the habit of being attracted to wrong teachings, you know, to where we get, you know, we just, or go like you're attracted to a cult. Which my dad, you know, my dad checked out His Holiness. So at least we did not fall under the definition of a cult according to my dad, so rest easy. So. All right. Now, we were talking earlier about the strength of actions. You know, what makes an action more powerful than something else? And then, of course, these things apply to both positive and negative actions. So, the nature of the action, like killing, is considered a natural non-virtue. All the 10 non-virtues are considered naturally non-virtuous. So, the thought, so how, you know, what we're thinking at the time, we're going to go over these in more detail. The methods we use when we perform the action, the object, you know, like, so doing harm to your parents, because, you know, they are the ones who provided you life, you know, is considered not a good object to do harm to. The frequency with which we do an action, so the more frequently we do it, the heavier it gets, or the stronger it gets is probably a better word. And the absence of an antidote, so obviously that's just for negative actions. So that's, we'll get there. All right. So heavy by nature, so like adhering to wrong views, like thinking that animal sacrifice is going to bring a good result. So that's makes it, and especially if you teach it to others. You know, so you hold this view, and then you go around encouraging others to believe the same, and kill more animals. You know, so heavy because of the thought. Any action becomes heavier if it's performed under the influence of a powerful form of one of the 3 poisons, and the 3 poisons are. Anger, attachment, and ignorance. So intense desire or intense hatred, that causes karma to be heavier or more powerful. And conversely, if the underlying attitude is weak, the karma will be lighter. Heavy because of the method. So action is powerful if you do it with an attitude of joy. This is true of both negative and positive actions. If you praise an action that you've done yourself or others have done, makes it more positive. If it's a positive action, if it's a negative action, it makes it a stronger negativity. You know, it's like I remember after Reagan was shot. That really dates me, I realize, but anyway. I had a friend call me on the phone and say, "Oh, too bad they didn't kill him." You know, so yeah, that's not a good attitude. With an attitude that is happy to see the act of killing, like that, you know, or if you plan the act for a long time and have make very elaborate preparations for. Why do you think that would make it stronger? Yeah, yeah. So every time we have to, set up for pushas, we can be happy. Sometimes it's an elaborate offering and all this stuff. So it's true also of positive. The more thought we put into it, the stronger the positive action is. If we perform the action constantly or repeatedly, do it avidly, or you do, like with killing, if you kill lots of people, like mass shootings, like Las Vegas. So this is another thing about, like in Buddhism, we often set up an altar at home, so we have an opportunity to make offerings and, so that's when we do it every day. And we say refuge every day, and we say, we set a positive motivation every day. All those kinds of positive habits make them stronger. Because first of all, we're more likely to do them. Things that we are habituated to, just naturally arise eventually. Just like now, you may find it easy to become impatient. If you practice patience, eventually it'll be easy for patience to arise. It's just familiarity. If we kill things in an especially cruel way, or if we force someone, if we kill someone after forcing them to do things that are negative, so they do them out of fear, like you force someone to shoot someone else. So, the uglier our thoughts and our actions and how we set it all up, the more powerful it can be if it's a negative action. Mercilessly. Without mercy, killing a being who is weak and helpless, who is suffering greatly, who is poor, who is pathetically moaning or pitifully wailing in pain. That's Geshe Sopa's description. So if what is it? You kicking someone when they're down is considered, it adds a certain weight to a negative action. Now again, the Buddha just described, what he knew from his lack of ignorance, from his, once he removed the barriers to being able to see, everybody's past, he was able to see, including his own, able to see how this worked. Heavy because of the object. So in general, if you kill an animal with a big body, you're creating heavier karma than killing a very small insect. What is that about, you think?
Your mind.
It's just simply about that there's much, it depends of course on how you kill something, but there's more pain receptors. There's going to be more pain for as compared to beings that don't have those kinds of, this is why, like, if, somebody decides to torture us, we feel quite a bit of pain because we have, pain receptors all over our body. So, killing, the mind, like killing a human being is particularly heavy because in the form of a human being, because of the nature of the physical support for the mind, because it's an excellent support for the mind, we are, taking away a life that has the potential for them to transform their minds, their habits, even become enlightened. So it's a waste of a human life, kind of thing. Also, actions done to fields of merit. So fields of merit are like your parents, your very close family members, like your siblings, your teachers, Arya beings, the ultimate Sangha, beings who've seen, of course we won't know who they are, so we don't really have to worry about that now. And ordained. But it's just, whoever's anybody holding vows, really. So that carries a heavier weight. heavy due to the frequency. I really should have used powerful. Powerful due to the frequency. So our good habits, the more we do them, the more powerful they are. Our bad habits, the more we do them, the more powerful they are. And then some people who, when you read sutras, sometimes I think it's in the sutra, the Sangati Sutra or something, but they talk about beings who are burnt. And they're talking about beings who have, developed their negativity so far that every single thing that they do in a life is negative. Hmm?
I said I've met that person.
Probably not.
No, I'm just.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen the kind of mind who could put that
Yes.
in myself. So, the absence of an antidote. So, if you do a negative action and have no clue that there's something you can do about the consequences of that negative action, then it's gonna ripen someday. But if you know how to apply an antidote, that's going to lighten the results, if you apply it. If you don't apply it, knowing about it doesn't help. But if you know about it and then put it into action, that will help. And of course, you have to do it sincerely. And, you can't just go through the motions and then have that work. It's so this is again about training our minds. So if you understand what the process is of purifying a seed that we place in our mind stream so that it cannot arise as a negative result in the future, you'll see what the it all falls together. Anyway, so, and the Buddha said that no matter how negative it is, what is it, Milarepa and 1,000, actually there was a different person who killed 999, and then he met the Buddha. The Buddha was gonna be the 1,000. So, I love stories. Anyway, but it's all about the mind, It isn't about just wishing we'll make it so. It's about really developing powerful states of mind that eventually will never do that negative action again. Because these are the minds you have to develop. So you have to develop regret, reliance, you have to do something with those minds, a remedy, and you have to resolve to not do it again. So this is about really understanding the difference between, say, regret and guilt. It's very important, that this isn't about just labeling yourself as a bad person. It's about regretting an action. That's about recognizing, oh, that was a negative action, And generally our negative actions hurt someone else. So we want to be able to really take that on, really take responsibility for, wow, my speech today was really hurtful to someone else. It harmed them, and not just brush it aside like, well, they'll get over it. Sticks and stones. You want to really acknowledge, because when you look at your own suffering, we've all suffered due to someone's harsh speech. So we want to be able to take responsibility for the way in which we've harmed and regret it. Yep.
Do you think that one has to have some kind of sense or appreciation of the factors that strengthen the negative action in order for a valid and good antidote?
I think it's all again about a powerful mind. So to make for your regret to be as powerful as the action, it's about that. It's being able to generate the kind of regret, and this takes practice, you know, and it takes time, it takes wisdom, it takes developing your mind in all sorts of ways. So that when you actually generate the mind of regret, there's no part of that mind that's lightening it, you know, that's minimizing it, that's, you know, thinking, wasn't that bad. No self-interest is there. Your focus entirely is on the harm that's been done. Now that harm can be to you, you know, that you can recognize that you've got this precious human rebirth and you've spent a day doing nothing but trashing others in your mind. You haven't said a word, you know, but you've spent that entire day just having, you know, practicing a negative state of mind. And if you want to become enlightened because you want to benefit others, then you might have a sincere regret for wasting that time. You know? So it's just about, you know, it's not about you in the sense of, oh, poor Tindrin, you know, wasted a day. You know, it's like, oh, poor sentient beings. This person's that much further, you know, from enlightenment. So, you know, you're delaying your ability to help others. So, you know, and you regret that. So it's this trying to be okay with sitting with regretting an action, where we're just, you know, like, you know, we don't want it to be guilt where we think, oh, I should just go jump off a cliff. It's really about, okay, I'm going to do better. I'm going to take an active way of, you know, improving what I do tomorrow, kind of thing. So, okay, we're going to get, that's where we'll start next week. But what we need to think about, so how do we, because it's not like we're all going to go home and we're going to regret everything we've ever done that was not purposeful and useful and helpful and all this kind of stuff and mean it, you know. We're not going to be able to generate sincere regret for all those things. And we're not going to wake up and make the resolve, tomorrow I will not think anything negative about it. I won't do anything negative, and I won't say anything negative, and be successful. You know, the odds are really pretty good that none of us will succeed in that. So what do we do? How do we use this information? Little steps. But what are little steps?
3 hours, 2 days, not to repeat the negative state.
Okay, you have to fill in the paragraph there.
Not to resolve not to commit that same negative action, body, speech, or mind for a short period of time.
For as long as you think you can do it.
Right, you can easily, or not easily, but you can do, not set yourself up for failure, because then you're just gonna feel lousy again.
Well, yeah. Or you're, as Rinpoche likes to say, you're gonna spend your whole life doing nothing but purification practices. So, if you don't wanna have to spend your whole life doing purification practices, you want to try to do better. So, but it's really about, so how, okay. So, I can't just tomorrow wake up and be a patient person. I mean, trust me, I've been trying to improve my impatient, you know, try to detach myself from the habit of impatience for decades now. And I've gotten heaps better, but I still have some traveling to do. So, you know, so what can I do to work with that? You know, I can't, you know, like Peggy's saying, I can't just expect myself tomorrow to, you know, get it right. What do I have to do to help myself? Yeah.
Put yourself in a position where something makes you impatient.
Well, yes, but what do I need to do before that?
Be aware.
And what do I need to do before that?
Intention.
I have to, yes, I have to remember tomorrow morning when I wake
Yes.
up, I really don't want to be an impatient person today. You know, I had to remember that. And then I usually, you know, to really motivate myself, I have to remind myself why. Who cares? You know, millions of people are impatient, you know, so what? I have to remember the harm it does. You know, I have to remind myself there's a reason why I don't want to be impatient. And so to sustain myself, it's sort of like putting on the armor of joyous effort. You know, it's this idea that, okay, I really would like to be different in this way. You know, I want my mind, and I don't want to respond to my habit of impatience with any actions. I've gotten pretty good at that. Not entirely good at it, but much, much better. But, you know, I want to even go further than just not being, you know, verbally, you know, impatient. I really want to remind myself that the world is not here to serve me, you know, and that I created the cause for things to break when I'm in line, for things to, you know, I mean, it's, you know, this is samsara, everything breaks, you know, so it's like, you know, really accepting that this is going to happen. And why would I want to harm a sentient being just because something isn't going smoothly or going the way I want it to go? Really? I want to hurt a human being or an animal or whatever because I'm in a hurry? You know? It's like, I don't want to be that kind of person. So it's about choices. Recognizing that, oh yes, I could, you know, the Buddha decided when, you know, the historical Buddha, that when, you know, when they started to have, when benefactors gave them land in order to be able to, you know, all the monastics to, instead of just be traveling all the time, and so, you know, because they didn't work for a living, they begged for a living, so they didn't own anything. And so then there were some benefactors that said, oh, you can use this part of my property, you know. And so he decided that during the rainy season, they wouldn't go anywhere because when they traveled during the rainy season, they killed a lot of things because the water would bring things up from the ground, you know, so that there were more animals on the roads. There were, you know, it was just easier to kill things just by walking. So they stayed put instead. So it's that kind of thinking things through, you know, that it's, you know, that our actions, if we guard them well, can minimize the harm we do to someone else. So, but that's the so we have to just start thinking, you know, like, so what we start with noticing. We just kind of look at what's, you know, just what is going on. And then we might try, you know, oh, I don't really need to focus on all the things I don't like about people. Maybe today or for the next hour at work, I'm just going to notice what's positive about my coworkers, you know, just to try to think something good, you know, to just go in the direction of thinking positive things, not what you know, not that what we can't fix in the world, but what we can. The ways in which we can be beneficial as, and, you know, and certainly not harming, but, you know, just even, you know, if everybody around us is tight and miserable or hurried or whatever, you know, in our work world or whatever, you know, we can be the ones that introduce a peaceful energy, an open energy, you know. So it's just, you know, it's about really just looking at the mind and what are we putting out there. Yeah.
So we've been talking about this, though, in the context of karma. What I notice is, when we were talking about the results of positive actions, is that by doing these practices now, although perhaps the ultimate reason is for a good rebirth, the the results happen now as well. And so would that just be considered a byproduct of the practice, or can that in and of itself be?
It's part of what helps us understand that we are part of what's going on. You know? So, I don't like explaining this. You know, it's like, okay, say we always seem to, you know, get on the task force with all the difficult people in the office. You know, you do teamwork and you always get stuck with the group that's hard to work with. So what can your attitude be about that? Understanding karma.
You're gonna learn patience because you're put in that situation where you might have been an impatient person or something in a past life. That it's gonna something to teach you in that situation.
If you choose,
Yeah.
that's a choice.
Well, you created the cause for it.
You created the cause, first of all.
Created the cause.
Maybe you're one of the difficult people.
Oh, right, okay,
Yeah, so you created the cause, but you may not be, you know, but you
Yeah.
certainly created the cause. And so sometimes you just have to think, gee, have I ever been one of those people that was so hard to, you know, da-da-da? You know, most of us can find an example of that. It might not be in this context, it might not be the workplace, but, you know, it's not a, you know, huge leap usually. You know, sometimes it is, and we just have to accept, oh, it must have done it in the past life. Or not, and then we can rejoice. Oh, I'm not doing it anymore. You know, this is good. You know, so maybe I can just exhaust some of my negative karma here. You know, but we can decide to make the best of it, can't we? You know. So it's this, and understand that this is where our good qualities come from. We don't get our good qualities by magic. We get them because people teach us how. You know, our parents told us how, so that means, you know, we can like be patient with the moving around of the set in the next room. So, but you know, this you know, if you really look, this is where we're all in it together. You know, it's not like we're just born with good qualities because we're special. And we're born with good qualities because we had good teachers in the past. And we were good students. We put them into practice. You know? Yeah.
Historically, when did like purification practices come into play? Like, I can kind of wrap my head around the karma, but then why do you need, and I understand why you need purification, but did the Buddha, because he can see our whole lives.
It's again
Did-
about cause and effect.
I'm sorry, what?
It's again about cause and effect. Being able to
So
see
what
that
purpose does it serve?
it prevents your past actions from ripening in the future.
It seems to me a bit like a get out of jail for free card.
Well, if you don't have, I mean, it isn't in the sense that you have to change your mind. You have to create the kind of mind that genuinely regrets having ever done it and may have the strength of mind to never do it again. That actually transforms the mind. That's what you're really talking
So
about.
that's what I'm kind of saying, that if you go into it with that resolve, that it can change your mind and.
No, that it has changed your mind. You make the resolve that you will not do this again.
So you
That's
will
what you're aiming
continue
for.
Making more good karma.
You know, we really have to, even though it's virtually impossible to do this, so I understand, but it is not a good place to go to thinking you're dealing with a scorecard. You know, because first of all, that keeps the focus on you. What's in it for me? You know? So we really want to focus on, I want to stop the harm I do. You know? Now, we may need the motivation of not wanting to go to a hell realm, you know. If that works for you, grab it and use it. If it doesn't work for you, fear doesn't work for me, it paralyzes me. I just kind of figure it's time to give up already. So it's not it doesn't work for me. I need to be encouraged. Well, and so for me, my practices so far, I sleep better at night. My habits that have changed have brought me peace in this life, you know. I don't go to bed thinking, oh, God, I'm such a jerk every single night of the week, you know. I mean, it's just better, you know. Oh, I don't feel so selfish and needy and greedy and, you know, purposeless. I don't see the world as pointless. So these are things that come from changing the way we think. So whether or not the Buddhist teachings are correct at all, I have no realizations to know. I don't know. I just know that the practice is so far so good. You know, I see the results of implementing the teachings. You know, and I can go, like I've said before, I think, probably not to y'all, but you know, that I look at sort of the path, and of course you can't do this until you've been exposed to the whole path, but I sort of look at it in reverse. Like if someone's really omniscient, what would that mean? What would they have to do? Well, obviously they have to have no ignorance at all. So what does that mean? Well, that means their mind has to be everywhere because it has to know everything. So it needs to know your minds as well as your actions, as well as the universe, and, you know, wherever it is, you know, so it can't be obscured from being everywhere. So that means the mind can't be physical and blocked in one little space, you know. And then, you know, what do you have to do? You have to really cultivate, you know, you have to really understand how things are. So you have to keep examining how, you know, I go backwards, and it all makes sense, you know. But the first step on a path is deciding to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings and mean it 24/7. Well, I'm not sure I can do that. But I do know that my mind is in better shape for that now than it was 20 years ago, you know. So, you know, maybe. And then I see people like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who I don't know what his qualities are, except that I'm positive that he thinks of others 24/7. I don't have any doubt of that. I've seen too much evidence of it. You know, I've never seen him ask for anything for himself, not a sip of water, you know. It's always about someone else. Fortunately, he has attendants, so he's still around because people make sure he eats. But it's not, you know, it's not because he asked for food. It's just, you know, it's just a different, you know, but it's not magic. It's effort. This is the result of all that effort. And it's a delight to be around. It's, you know, it's really interesting. It's hard work because
It takes a lot of observation.
takes a lot of observation. Absolutely. And it takes a lot of desire to do no harm. You know, to really, you know, that so that you can really start to notice, oh, you know, my attitude could really use some tweaking here because I'm being kind of careless with others today. But you can start by just doing silly things, which don't end up being silly. But you know, it's sort of like, you know, when you get the red light, and you know, you go, oh yay, other people got to go, you know, and try to mean it. Yeah. And then you think, you know, when somebody cuts you off in traffic or whatever, or they're driving, you think, oh, I hope it's a girl. It's, you know, that they're rushing to the hospital for the birth of their first child, you know. But you just try to not assume the worst about people, you know, and try to, you know, come at it from a different angle, because coming at it from a negative angle doesn't help us. It doesn't help our day. So, and things like, okay, I'm going to leave for work on time so that I'm not irritated with everybody on the road and not irritated at every stoplight, and so I don't get mad, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and I'm going to eat lunch so I don't get the, what do people say nowadays? Hangries in the afternoon, you know. Or I'm not gonna overeat at lunch because then I'm gonna get the sleepies in the afternoon, you know. But we take into account that we are responsible, you know, if we take care of our mind, you know, that our attitude can improve, you know, but it's a choice. It's a choice. You know? Instead of thinking, you know, this is why I'm so worried about your, you know, thinking of, you know, using karma to go, oh, that jerk's gonna get theirs, which you didn't say, so I'm not attributing that to you,
When?
Francisca.
When?
The
That was
first week or
Sunday
the
or
second week or somewhere.
Oh, the boomerang.
Yeah, the boomerang.
The boomerang,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's never has been my intention, and I clarified that to
I
you.
know, it's
I
still
said
a good
that-
example though,
But
cause
that was,
most.
but some people could have that idea, you
Yeah,
know, I
that's
want
the
them to
people I'm
get
talking
theirs,
about.
yes.
Yes.
I always just have that as a
That's
karmic
great.
thing, I just
Okay,
feel
let's
that.
move on,
Okay.
Francisca. But-
In case nobody else knows that.
Yes.
But that's my reputation.
And guess, that's the last
Oh.
thing we're willing to let go of, is our good reputation.
Yeah.
We will lie, steal, cheat, we will do all sorts of things to protect our reputation. It's really interesting, and we can think we don't have any pride, and then, you know, whoa, we discovered wrong again. So, but it's this, you know, we don't really want to judge others. We don't wanna get caught up in just thinking about, you know, when someone does something unskillfully, or we think they're doing it unskillfully, since we can't read their mind, you know, we really want to go towards compassion, that they're creating the cause for suffering. And they may have caused harm to someone, and you wanna have compassion for whoever they've harmed, including yourself, if it's you. You know, but you just wanna go to compassion, because we're all in the same boat. We all act badly out of our misunderstanding of how to get happiness. It's because we suffer, and we don't know, you know, how to fix it. So, it's just this, okay, so there we go.
Well, you know what's helped me is to know that other people are suffering.
Yeah,
Just having that in my mind, just to say, you know, this person's not a bad person. It's just also they're suffering, like all of us are.
Yep.
But how are these practices resulting in such positive results now, if they're really related to the
Okay.
ripening of past
It's
actions?
pleasure and suffering. The experience of pleasure and suffering.
Yeah.
Okay, is the result of a past action. So say we do something nice,
Right.
and we're enjoying doing this nice thing, that enjoyment is coming from a past positive action, okay? And then in the next moment, it's possible that the first moment of that action is causing the condition for another positive seed to ripen, and the enjoyment continues, you know, so it's like, we have some impact on our conditions. You know, when we speak kindly to people, what we just have to remember is we can speak kindly to someone and they can bite our head off. Because karma's not instant. Just because most of the time when we speak kindly to someone, we might get a kind result, doesn't mean it's but it's our feeling of pleasure. It's our enjoyment that is the result from past actions.
Okay, but
it's
us-
very hard to
we're
get.
changing our practices now.
Mhm.
It's creating
The
a-
cause for better futures,
But we're also experiencing,
maybe,
you know, something in the present.
yeah. They're not mutually exclusive. What you're experiencing in the present is probably the result from a previous similar action.
Not all virtuous actions bring us pleasure.
Yes, because of karma.
Right. But,
Mhm.
so you don't always get the bonus of having a positive
Right.
result right now.
Right.
That means karma's growth.
I'm sorry?
Karma's growth, all the time it's growing.
Well, we're placing, every thought places a seed on our mind stream. And they say we have 65 thoughts in a finger snap.
Everything goes into accounts receivable.
If you wanna look at it that way. Yeah. You know, but we don't cash the check right away, so, oh, it's time. I should know this, cause they think we end at 8:30, so that's why they do all this noise making in between. Cause they really try to be quiet, cause they know we're in here working hard. on our minds. They're very nice. Okay. So one of the meditations I sent you, I think, was on the disadvantages of anger.
Yes.
Why is that the meditation recommended for this course?
It's a very common, persistent habit of thought.
The main thing is that anger is, not only is it unpleasant, I mean, we don't, having the mind of anger doesn't really feel good, but it destroys our virtue. So it's really a powerfully negative state of mind. And the anger that has that effect is the kind of anger that has reached the point where you kind of want to do harm. You really want to get even. You really want to say something nasty and hurtful. You really, there's an energy behind it that's a really powerful thing. And just the same way that you can cause the end of a relationship that's been going on for a long time with one of those moments of intense anger, it destroys our virtuous seeds from being able to ripen as pleasure. So that comes, so it's really, attachment causes us also to do a lot of things that are negative, but it also is a condition for us to do a lot of things that are positive. So, but, hatred and anger are not like that. So we want to work on, that's why it's in there. It's like it's such an important practice to try to really reduce our habit of anger, to recognize there's really nothing in it for us, that we can correct injustice without it, that we can, that the anger itself, this desire to, strike out at someone else is really detrimental to us. So that's why it's picked. Okay? Any last minute thoughts? All right.
If anyone wasn't here last week and wants the emails.
I
let me
just
know.
closed my computer. Anthony, you didn't get the last, whatever. Yep,
Oh, he wasn't here?
I was recording. Oops.
I saw that.
So did anybody not sign up? Anybody new here tonight?
Anybody new here tonight that needs to give me their email address so I can send you the readings?
Or I can get it to him.
Anyway, I think I've got most of y'all's emails, so, and you got to fix the one. So okay, so that's what that's about. Saturday is a day of meditation in honor of the people who are actually taking the test in discovering Buddhism, because they have to do these days of meditation. So we're rejoicing, ha ha. So anyway, but Jackie is going to lead, from 10 to 4. It should be a wonderful day, so, and then Sunday's the usual.
Medicine Buddha Puja next week.
During the day, right?
Yes,
Next
Thursday.
Thursday, if you're into pujas, have free time, come at
11 a.m.
11. It's on the calendar. And
If anyone's interested in the Key for Karma, it's through FPMT.
oh yeah, there's
yeah.
also an online program from the FPMT, and if you make an offering, we can give you the key for it, and then you can do the online, you can get the online transcripts and whatever for this course. It's Renata teaches this one. I knew her in Australia, although she's not from Australia, she's from Europe somewhere. But, so, we have all the keys for all the online programs. The whole Discovering Buddhism is also available online. So it's cheaper to buy the key through us than through the FPMT, so. And some of them are free, like the How to Meditate course. So see Nicole if you want to do that. Anything else? Oh, let's go home. So, we want to, I really feel bad. I was not mindful. So just think about the good stuff we did though. Not the mistake Kendra made. So, you know, that we spent another 2 hours here working on our mind, trying to understand a very complex explanation for how things work. Just to understand it. But anything that we do to try to help us figure out how to have a less suffering life, a less harmful life, a more meaningful life, it's really excellent activity, so we can be happy about that. And so this will have positive results, so we just want to make the wish that any of our positive results don't exhaust until the great enlightenment and then no suffering sentient beings at all. Yay, team. All right, drive safely.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.